Hello again, my fellow pilots and my fellow aircraft maintenance personnel. Your host is always Haitham Ali, and I'm an aviation technical instructor. What is the main component of an autopilot system? What is the main component of the autopilot system? Okay, the autopilot is part of the automatic flight control system, which have autopilot, flight director, and auto thrust. Regarding the autopilot, what is the main component? Actually, we may have four main components. It is the FCU, Flight Control Unit or Mode Control Panel, according to the type of the aircraft. Flight Mode Annunciator, Autopilot Computer, and Actuator. Again, the main four components of an autopilot system is the Flight Control Unit, FCU, the Flight Mode Annunciator, FMA, the actuator, and the autopilot computer. When the aircraft is controlled by the autopilot, actually when the autopilot flies the aircraft, it controls the CG of the aircraft, it controls the aircraft around the CG. So it make aircraft control and they make aircraft guidance. Make aircraft control and they make aircraft guidance. Okay, everybody? Okay. Long-term control with the autopilot happens through the MCDU or CDU, Multi-Purpose Control Display Unit. And short-term control with the autopilot is done through the FCU Flight Control Unit or Mode Control Panel. FCU is an Airbus terminology and the Mode Control Panel is a Boeing terminology. Mode Control Panel is a Boeing terminology. Okay, so what is the function of the flight control unit and the mode control panel? It allows the pilot to control the aircraft by issuing the autopilot computer with speed, heading, and altitude command. On the FCU, everybody flight control unit or mode control panel, you have maybe rotary switches, rotary selectors for heading, altitude, and airspeed. Heading, altitude, and airspeed, and maybe for vertical speed. In that case, short-term control to the autopilot from the pilot can be done. And from this knob, we can always remember push to manage and pull to select. Push to manage and pull to select. If you push on the rotary selector, push to manage. Manage what? You say the autopilot computer manage the speed or manage the heading or manage the altitude. You have the authority, I'm the pilot giving you the authority, autopilot computer, to manage the heading or speed or altitude or maybe vertical speed. But pull to select, when I pull on the rotary selector, and I select the pilot, a certain heading or a certain altitude or a certain airspeed to allow the autopilot to be updated with that new input and fly the aircraft on this selected parameter by the pilot. Okay, everybody? So one of the main components of the autopilot is the flight control unit, FCU, or mode control panel, MCP. And as we say that FCU is an Airbus terminology and the MCP is a Boeing terminology, it allows the pilot to control the aircraft by issuing the autopilot computer with speed, heading, and altitude command. So on the FCU or MCP, you will find the speed knob, heading knob, and altitude knob. And remember always, push to manage, pull to select. Again, push to manage and pull to select. Okay. These commands are sent to the autopilot computer when the pilot changes the speed, heading, and altitude parameter via a series of easy-to-reach cockpit-mounted switches and buttons. In that case, pull to select. The shape of this button identified for potential cabin emergencies, control wheels, and rotable selector. Okay. So this is one of the main components of the autopilot system, FCU or mode control panel. What is the second component of the autopilot system? It is the flight mode annunciator, FMA. Flight mode annunciator or FMA is the upper part of the BFD, primary flight display, or the upper part of the electronic attitude direction indicator. In the Boeing terminology, BFD is an Airbus terminology. So from the FMA, the pilot can know how the autopilot reacts. The status of engagement of the autopilot flight director and auto thrust on the FMA. The landing capabilities on the FMA, if we can make an auto land or a semi-auto land. The lateral and vertical guidance engaged and armed modes on the FMA, and the auto thrust mode on the FMA. So actually the flight mode annunciator, everybody, is located at the top of the primary flight display. Top of the primary flight display, Airbus terminology, or electronic attitude director indicator, Boeing terminology. All autopilot mode selections that are made through the FCU and MCB will be displayed on the FMA, so that pilot can be sure what autopilot mode have been selected. Engaged mode or armed mode. And any selector you as a pilot made on the FCU or MCB will be indicated on the FMA, on the flight mode annunciator. Okay, everybody? So again, the FMA, you can monitor on it the autopilot, flight director, and auto thrust engaged mode. Okay? The landing capabilities, if we can make an auto land or not. The lateral and the vertical guidance, navigation guidance mode, engaged and armed, and the auto thrust mode, Actually, the FMA in the Airbus terminology is containing 5 columns, or in the Boeing maybe 3 columns. And you need to remember, if you need to possess or if you need to establish an auto land, the aircraft must sustain a 3-axis autopilot system, and the radio altimeter must be okay. The radio altimeter must be good. Also the ILS system. What other component for the autopilot? It is the autopilot computer and the actuator, that may be electro-hydraulic actuator. Okay, everybody, or maybe electro-pneumatic actuator. Okay, everybody. So the actuator is also the actuator or servo control, which is located on the flight control system. Because you know, when the autopilot is engaged, actually the autopilot sends the control signal to the flight control system. Through what? Through the actuator. Okay, everybody, thank you for your good listening, and always fly safely and maintain your aircraft very safely. Please stay tuned for a next session like this, for an upcoming sessions like this, to enhance your awareness regarding aircraft systems. From Cairo, Egypt, your host was Haitham Ali, and I'm an aviation technical instructor. Thank you and goodbye.